That's Berry, Engel, and Porter, the junior and two seniors.
Berry's 0 for 3. Engel's 0 for 3. And then Porter is the lone man responsible for one of the walks, and then he came around to score on Bankson's 2-run homer, which was his second of the game. And the bottom of the lineup doing the rest of the heavy lifting.
The new pitcher for Brown is Pat Petteruti. See the numbers. 7.36 ERA. That's overall. In Ivy League play, they're worse. But he's only thrown 2/3 of an inning in Ivy League play this year. That is why. 1 earned run allowed in 2/3 of an inning pitch.
Sophomore out of Rhode Island. It's going to be his 9th appearance this season. Last season, he appeared in 7 games, and that was highlighted by 2 starts. And only logged 8 2/3 innings.
One of 3 players on the Bears who hails from Rhode Island. Frank Caprio is from Providence. Zach Fogel, another reliever, is from Cumberland. Rhode Island is not a very big state, but it's a nice one. I've spent more time in that state than any of the other 49 besides this one.
Nice little tidbit there.
I never ran into Pat Petteruti though.
And you would think, considering it's a small state,
there's so few people you run into
it's
everyone,
actually
right?
highly disappointing that the two of you haven't crossed paths prior to today. But I would echo your sentiments that Rhode Island overall a really nice state, specifically the city of Providence.
Yeah, I love Thayer Street down the heart of Providence. Well, at least on the east side towards Brown's campus.
Well, that's the one thing about the Ivy League. You've got a mixture of cities, and then you have a few of
And then you have Ithaca.
that are in the suburbs.
Suburbs. That's generous to Ithaca and Hanover.
Well, Hanover technically is a city-ish type of feel, but it's a very short strip for individuals that have been to Hanover. Going up to Hanover, it reminds me when you walk through their town area, it's almost like you're on a movie set.
Interesting.
So it's got a very unique feel.
But what about the college town up in Ithaca? Not the same feel?
No, completely different. Because Cornell is so isolated.
The 1-0 from Petteruti, and Berry flips it into left field, into the corner, and it will land fair. Julian Berry will round second, and will hold up there with an RBI double. 3 straight 2-out RBI hits here in the 6th inning for the Lions have made it a 4-run frame and a 9-1 lead.
And keep in mind, what did this all come after? Came after Griffin Williams drew a walk. So, once again, we don't know necessarily how that at-bat would have turned out, but Garner doesn't award the free base. That's the 1 extra out that he desperately needed here, considering Joshua Solomon wound up flying out. He did drive in a run because of a sac fly, but that's the difference in this game, specifically this frame.
Brings up Joe Engel, who swings at the first pitch fastball and bloops it into right field. And he's going to head to second with Columbia's 3rd straight 2-out RBI double. 4 straight 2-out hits for the Lions. It's a 5-run frame and a 10-1 lead here in the 6th.
Well, the offense started off hot in the 2nd and the 3rd with 5 runs, and now adding some extra layers of cushion here in the 6th with a 5-run outburst.
So the senior Joe Engel getting in on the action offensively. Now everyone has got in on the action in some way.
Well, specifically the top of the order, which is what we were talking about earlier in the game. They had been relatively quiet in the bottom of the order doing the heavy lifting, and now they are spreading the wealth.
Porter only been part of the action a little bit via a walk. You need to get a hit to join this to get to join this party.
Well, and also to extend the inning.
Yes. Which would bring up Chandler Bankston again.
Who started the frame by being hit by a pitch. And that was, to me, what counts as another free opportunity for Garner.
That is high. So things not working out so far for Petaruti. Not retired a batter.
If only he would have crossed paths in Rhode Island.
I would have given him some advice on how to attack the Columbia order. But, I mean, what I would have said is probably throw strikes. That's what he's doing. The problem is Columbia is jumping on them.
When does the Ryan Young baseball camp start up again this summer? Have you decided on dates?
I don't want to compete with Brand Achilles' camp and Brett Moretti's camp. I don't want to draw business away from them.
Well, just put it a different week.
2-1 pitch, and Porter rockets one to left field, but Caprio settles under it, and that'll finally put an end to a sixth inning in which the Lions bat around and score 5 times, including 4 straight 2-out RBI hits. We will head to the 7th for the second straight inning. It'll be Chandler Bankston heading to the plate to lead it off for Columbia. The Lions in front 10-3 on the backs of a 5-run 6th inning, which is why Chandler's leading off consecutive frames. Columbia batted around in the 6th. Bankston responsible for 3, or his driven in 3 of the runs today. Also scored a run when he led off the 6th after he was hit by a pitch. We'll see if he is swinging for the fences again to try to make it 3-1 game. We'll see what he's done today. The 2 home runs, what he's done in his career, the 28 home runs. Now there's some distance between he and Gene Larkin and Dario Pisano. He does have to face the left-hander here. Petaruti deals. Chandler swings at the first pitch and pops it back up, foul, out of play. And there you see what he's done in his career. 28 home runs. I mean, the rest of the team combined, 26. And half of those for Liam McGill, who's not in the lineup today. A 1, well outside. Petaruti had a tough 6th inning after he came in, was finally able to get an out when Porter struck a ball very well into left field. Caprio was able to settle under it. Petaruti's 1-1. And that's grounded foul. The Brown infield is very deep. Once again, the second baseman, Holmza, pretty much playing in right center field. And the shortstop, Cufo, is also on the outfield grass, which is just something. I mean, teams shift against Chandler, but don't see that often. And I'm not even sure. I mean, this is an interesting shift because the shortstop is still where you would expect the shortstop to be, even though he's playing deep. 1-2, curveball, and it stayed inside. Yeah, it was a rough day for Bankston yesterday, but he has made up for it today. He was 0 for 5 yesterday, striking out a bunch of weak ground balls. Today, it's been home run, and he was hit by a pitch. 2-2. Fastball high, 3-2.
Well, and it hasn't just been against ground, Ryan. When you take it into consideration, I mean, he did have a hit against Monmouth on Wednesday, but then Game 3 at Yale, he was 0 for 3 with a strikeout, did draw a walk. So this has been an all-around productive game for Chandler. And sometimes you need one of these games to get yourself going.
Here's the payoff pitch, and Bankston takes a fastball high, a leadoff walk. So he has been on base all 4 times. 2 of those times he was quickly off the bases after he rounded them, but now a leadoff hit by pitch in the 6th and a leadoff walk in the 7th. And that shows you some self-control. You're up big. You have a chance to try for another dinger, but he's content to help his team and be on to lead off the frame. And now Nikolov, who's 1 for 3. And the thing about playing at Yale and Princeton, first of all, they're, as I mentioned, they're not nearly as good a hitter's ballpark as this one is, but they have both teams have good pitching. Yale's starters are great. Scott Police pitched a complete game yesterday against Penn. Columbia was still able to fight through that one, mainly with its pitching. That series, I should say. So that's on the outside, a strike to Nikolov. Nikolov is the only Lion who does not have a run or an RBI. Seven of the Columbia batters have a run in this game, except for Joe Engel and Nikolov, but Engel is the one who has an RBI. A 1, and Nikolov fights off the fastball in center field. To his left, Lamusha, 1 out.
It's quite ironic that Nikolov is the one guy in that lone category, mainly because he's the hottest hitter, you could argue, within Columbia's lineup, especially how well he was playing entering this weekend. And yesterday, he went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and that snapped his 10-game hit streak, which is the perfect example to show you how consistent he's been over the last week or so.
That'll bring up the senior Griffin Williams. And Williams rips it into right center field. A diving attempt by Lamusha, but it's off his glove and behind him. And the senior Williams delivers his first hit of the day. He's been on base 3 out of 4 times. The Lions have 2 in scoring position.
Well, everybody making a stamp in the box score. And Williams getting an opportunity on senior day, making the most of this chance. That was another big connection, and that is his 2nd double of the season. So, once again, it's all about opportunities. It's not just Ivy League basketball, just in general. And Liam McGill is banged up. Brett Peretti turns to Griffin Williams, and what better way to come through than on this stage?
Here's Solomon. Swings at the first pitch, blown by him. 0-1.
And Griffin Williams, remember, did not spend 4 years here at Columbia. He transferred from McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas. He's a very productive hitter. Nearly 300 with 22 RBI in 27 games in the 2016 season at McLennan. Then, Columbia, complimentary player for the Lions. Now trying to cap off his career on a high note.
0-1 pitch, and Solomon lines it into right field, and it will be lined up by Farris. Tagging at third base is Bengtson, and he slides in with Columbia's 11th run of the game. So that's a sac fly and back-to-back plate appearances to Solomon. He's gone to right field twice to get an RBI.
Except this time, Ryan, it was a little bit easier because remember the previous sac fly was a tremendous catch by Calvin Farris right around foul territory, and Farris had to hustle all the way down the line and nearly made a throw on point at home plate. This one, not nearly as close of a play.
Jack Chernow steps in. Williams had limited at-bats last year for Columbia, although he nearly made a name for himself in the final game of the Princeton series last year where he hit a ball really close to winning a game, or maybe it was a game-tying home run it would have been for Columbia. That was in that wild game where Princeton nearly dropped the pop-up at the end of it. But so Williams had a lot of pinch hit appearances last year, but didn't have as much of a starting role. Gets the start today with the injury to McGill. 1-0 on the outside to Chernow. Columbia dropped game one of yesterday's, or dropped game one of the series in yesterday's 8-5 Brown victory. Bears had an 8-1 lead. Columbia tried to rally back. Could not get the big hit. That's outside. So it looks like we have yet another rubber match on the plate. The final game of the weekend. It's been the case in all three of the Ivy weekends here at Robertson Field, and in all but one of Columbia's series, because they swept Yale last week. 2-1. And for a strike.
Well, the goal is every weekend, and it may be stating the obvious, but this is what most coaches in the league are going to tell their players. Keep winning series and let the standings play out the way they will. But you go into a weekend, you take 2 or 3, step in the right direction. That's been Columbia's mindset.
2-2 pitch. Swing and a foul tip that is caught by Park Phillip. I asked Coach Beretti his feelings on the rest of the league, and he said he didn't have any. He cares about what Columbia does on the field. Let's go to the 8th. The Lions are up 8. This is the Ivy League on ESPN.
Back here in Robertson Field, St. Tao Stadium, Lance Meadow, Ryan Young with you. As we move to the bottom of the 8th, Columbia in cruise control over Brown, 11-3. Tim Post following Ethan Abrams in what has been a very strong pitching performance for Columbia. Certainly the 11 runs jumps off the board, but I have to give credit to this Columbia staff keeping Brown's bats in check. A Brown lineup that put 8 runs on the board yesterday. Now, granted, some of those runs were a result of mishaps in the field and decision-making, but still credit deserving for this Columbia group of arms. And A.J. DiFilippo is going to lead things off here in the bottom of the 8th. What has been a very active day for him. Doubling in his last at bat, which was part of a string of 3 straight 2-out doubles. And that one is off the mark for ball number 1.
Oh, I see that the pitcher, Pat Petteruti, is still out there. Went to Moses Brown High School, which is actually right across the street from the baseball field at Brown. Literally across the street.
What?
Which further adds to the storyline, in case you're just joining us, as to how it's humanly possible that Ryan Young never crossed paths with him.
When I was working up in Pawtucket, I frequently went down to Providence, passed through Brown's campus because I enjoy walking through it, and that's why I heard of Moses Brown High School. Pretty cool, honestly, to pitch in high school across the street and then get to play Division I baseball for that program.
Did he walk too? No. So this kid didn't walk.
Well, he was certainly very familiar with the layout of the land, given the close proximity that the high school is to Brown. And he pitched and he played the outfield at Moses Brown High School.
Mm-hmm.
And here trying to solve DiFilippo, who gets his first strike there. They're falling behind in the count. 3-0. After DiFilippo, we go to the top of the order. Julian Berry, followed by Joe Engel. DiFilippo sends this one to right field. Having trouble initially with it as Farris will finally get underneath it. And we've got one away here in the 8th.
Little peaks of sun in the sky. It's mostly cloudy. But, we always know it can be tough here to try to look through the sun to find a baseball.
Well, early in this game, it's been overcast. Now, to your point, a little bit of the sun we see, but a very strong cloud covering. Ryan later on will be providing us with an update on the jet stream and what direction that's coming in from.
I was staring at the radar for 24 hours before yesterday morning. The rain was able to hold off around noon. That's why this doubleheader was pushed back to today. Could not play yesterday morning.
And that's not the first time this has happened this season.
No, and actually changed Columbia's strategy the first weekend of the season, or the Ivy season against Cornell, when they were going to pitch Borevsky in game 3, but held him off to game 2, which they did not do today. They kept him in game 3. Brown, meanwhile, Coach Achilles says the change in schedule didn't affect his team at all. Although it's probably nice for Delano not to have to play 2 games in addition to pitching yesterday.
Conserving some of his energy and able to rest up, knowing that it would be a fairly quick turnaround. As Berry fouls this one off. Berry had a double in his last at bat. So did the man that's going to follow him, Joe Engel. Berry's tied for first 11 multi-hit games. Can he add another as he sends one deep to center field?
Right. Get
Back
your
at the
hits off
track
on
and
that.
making the catch is Lomusho. And Brown is able to once again do some damage control there as that ball looked like it had a little bit underneath it, held up right at the wall.
We've seen what Lamusha obviously can do offensively in this series with a couple of 3-hit games and the home run earlier today, but he's a great center fielder.
What's the solution?
Coach Achilles says that he's as good as any center fielder
No, I
in
know.
the Ivy League. He saves out. He says sometimes he may even make an error because he travels so far to get to some balls. That's probably not going to happen in this ballpark, though, because center field is actually the smallest part of the outfield. We haven't seen a lot of him racing back on balls in this series. It's actually interesting, and I probably should have asked Coach Achilles about that. I think a guy like Lamusho is the perfect candidate to maybe not have play center field in this ballpark. Maybe shift him to right or left where there's more ground to cover.
Well, but Caprio and Farris have done really nice jobs at the respective spots that you just referred to. So I think it's a good thing if you're head coach Achilles to say, hey, I like how my guys in left and right are playing, and there's no reason to really manipulate the layout of the land back there, considering all 3 have come through. Engel will send this into the football stadium.
Well, it's a good problem to have. I guess I'm the one making it into a problem. There's no problem here for Brown. They have 3 good outfielders, and they are good to go. It is interesting, though, when you come to this ballpark, how it's constructed, and if you want to account for that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was sensing some skepticism with your tone, so I think the jury's still out. Whether or not you were second guessing. Joe Engel swings, misses, ball gets away, and it makes no difference as they apply the tag.
But it was
We
nice
move
that
to
he
the
said
top
it.
of the 9th. Columbia still in a comfort zone ahead of Brown 11-3.
Right?
Watching Ivy League